Today we're going to talk about Ella Eastin's 200 IM at the 2018 NCAAs. The American record in the women's 200 IM was kind of slowly chipped away at piece by piece by piece. And we saw, kind of the barrier breaker in this sense was Caitlin Leverins being the first person to swim a Euro sub 152 200 IM, swimming a 151.77 in 2012. And then in 2016, we saw Ella Eastin come in, and she snuck just underneath that record with a 151.65. And in 2017, we didn't see a new record in that event, and it looked like that those two times would stand alone. And then Eastin came in at NCAAs in 2018 and really just kind of dominated, breaking the record by nearly a full second. But she wasn't alone in the field. I mean, Kathleen Baker, another great swimmer, was with her the whole race. In fact, ahead of her for most of the whole race. So let's take a look at Eastin swim and see if we can pick out, some of the best parts of this one. Eastin had a great IM race tempo throughout the race. Her fly averaged 1.02 seconds per cycle. Her back averaged 1.36 seconds per cycle. Her breast averaged 1.35 seconds per cycle. And her free averaged 1.21 seconds per cycle. And the biggest things that jump out to me are her fly and her breast tempo. Those are awesome tempos where she was really aggressive, made sure she stayed on the race. She didn't let herself get long. She didn't let herself settle in those strokes. And short axis strokes tend to have a little bit slower of tempos than the long axis strokes. And what we really notice is in her first 25 of her breaststroke leg, she has a 1.42 tempo. And then in her second 25, she cuts that all the way down to a 1.26 tempo. I mean, just a massive jump in tempo from that first 25 to that second 25. And that's really what took her from, kind of just behind Kathleen Baker at that point in the race to really touching the wall, almost dead even with her. Her stroke counts are pretty solid. Her fly, she took 14 strokes in the 50, 6 down, 8 back. In her back, she took 22 strokes in the 50, 10 down, 12 back. In the breast, she took 15 strokes in the 50, 7 down, 8 back. And in the free, she took 27 strokes in the 50, 13 down, and 14 back. But what she did a great job of was kind of managing her stroke count to make sure that she hit the walls on those full strokes instead of gliding in too long or having to take an extra short stroke to hit the wall at full speed. She really just nailed each of her turns, which is essential in an IM. And knowing your stroke counts, how many you're going to take and where you're going to hit the wall, is a big piece of executing a great race. Like we talked about, Eastin really nailed her turns. She had some great turns, making some adjustment strokes in her fly and her breaststroke as she was approaching the wall so that she could really come into the wall on a full stroke and maximize that speed in and out of the wall. And that made a big difference. Made a big difference in her from her fly transition to her back, helping her maintain that great tempo that she had. And it made a great big difference in her breast to her free as well. And that's where we really see a huge difference in racing between Baker and Eastin is that breast and free leg. And she had fantastic underwater throughout the race. They didn't falter off at all. In fact, her second to last underwater, that underwater leading onto that first 25 of that free leg was outstanding. And really, that's what took her from just behind her, even with Baker, to giving her a slight edge. She really pulls away right at the end. It looks like they're dead even at the last turn, and then somewhere in that back 25, she really just kind of blows Baker away. And one of the big things I noticed is, she puts her head down and finishes from 9 to 10 meters out. She's not taking a breath into the wall. We can take a look at her splits here. it's a very well swum IM. I mean, she's out fast in that fly. She's staying aggressive in the backstroke. She has a great breaststroke leg, but her free leg is kind of where she separates herself from the rest of the field. She outsplit Baker in the free leg by 1.25 seconds. And so that's really what made the biggest difference in the race for her was for Eastin to be able to come home really, really strong. One of the most important pieces of having a great IM is being able to transition from one stroke to the next without losing much. Talk about these IM transitions. What we're really talking about is being able to go from a lower tempo short axis stroke to a faster tempo long axis stroke and not lose anything and not have to build into that stroke at all. You know, and the best way to have great transitions in IM is to, you know, consciously work on these things in practice. When you're doing an IM set, when you're doing a set where you're going from fly to back or back to breast or breast to free, making sure that you're one, have a great sense of your turn, know exactly when you're going to hit the wall so you can maximize that speed in and out of the wall. But two, know that you go from a slower arm tempo stroke like fly or breast into a faster arm tempo stroke like back or free. And you need to make sure that you make a conscious effort to pick up the arm speed as you come onto that next stroke. And that's really what Eastin does so well throughout the race, is that she maintains her aggressive tempo in her fly, hitting the wall very, very well, and transitioning in a backstroke, maintaining that speed. And the same thing, she has a really aggressive second 25 of breaststroke to make sure that she hits the wall well and is able to come off with a really aggressive tempo on that first 25 of freestyle, taking her from just behind to just ahead in the race. You know, and another thing is she maintains her underwater stroke the whole race. And in fact, I mean, you can see she's going 7-8 meters underwater off the wall on her last two walls in freestyle, which is a very, very hard thing to do in a race as taxing as the 200 IM. You know, and the way that the best way to get better at that is to make sure you're doing it, and not necessarily doing it in just specifically IM sets, but doing it in sets that are hard, that you get tired in, and making sure that you emphasize those underwaters. You emphasize power and tempo and distance off the wall, even as you start to get tired at the end of a longer set. And that's really going to translate over to your ability to do those as you start to get tired in a hard race. You know, overall, I really, really like Eastin's performance in this race because every piece of it stands out as a great swim. There's not one part that's necessarily better than the other. She just executes a really, really well swum race for an entire 200 IM. A great 50 fly, a great transition, a great 50 back, a great transition, a great 50 breast, a great transition, and finishes with a great 50 free. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes to execute a great IM. And she does it in a way that, you know, lowers her own American record by nearly a full second.